Welcome to Mental Flight, where bold ideas take off, and untold truths soar beyond the limits of ordinary thinking. Then fasten your mind, you're cleared for takeoff. In a stunning move that has captured global attention, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young and visionary leader of Burkina Faso, has announced the overnight unveiling of a $1 trillion megacity project. This unprecedented development marks a bold new chapter not only for Burkina Faso but for the entire African continent. It signals a shift from dependence to sovereignty, from stagnation to innovation, and from silence to global declaration. What was once considered an impossible dream has suddenly materialized under Traoré's bold leadership. Reflecting a level of ambition rarely seen in modern geopolitics, the announcement of the trillion-dollar city did not come with traditional fanfare or drawn-out diplomacy. It arrived with power, precision, and purpose. Ibrahim Traoré, known for his strong anti-colonial stance and his muscular, disciplined presence as a former soldier and bodybuilder, made it clear that this city is more than infrastructure. It's a symbol of resistance and rebirth. Designed as a futuristic metropolis equipped with smart technologies, green energy systems, and advanced transportation networks, this city is intended to rival the most developed regions in the world while remaining deeply rooted in African values and sovereignty. What makes this event even more extraordinary is the speed and secrecy with which the project was developed. While the global community remained largely unaware, planning and construction phases were executed with military precision, leveraging a network of regional alliances, domestic engineering talent, and foreign partnerships outside the traditional colonial sphere. Sources suggest that much of the funding and technological collaboration came from non-Western allies who share Traoré's vision for a multipolar world where African nations are not seen as aid recipients, but as equal players on the global stage. The location of the new city, although still confidential to ensure security and strategic control, said to be in a resource-rich corridor of Burkina Faso area, previously overlooked by international investors. Now, with state-of-the-art design and a master plan to boost education, healthcare, manufacturing, and digital infrastructure, the city is being positioned as the new economic capital of West Africa. Analysts have already begun referring to it as the African Silicon Valley or the new capital of sovereignty. International reactions have been mixed. While some Western observers remain skeptical of the price tag and feasibility, regional leaders and Pan-African thinkers are calling this a historic act of liberation. Traoré's move is being viewed as a defiant statement against centuries of exploitation and underdevelopment. It embodies the idea that African nations no longer need permission to dream big or build bold. For many across the continent, this project symbolizes hope, strength, and a turning point in African history as the details of the city continue to unfold. One thing is certain: Ibrahim Traoré has cemented his position as one of the most daring and disruptive leaders of the 21st century. His $1 trillion city is not just a political stunt, it's a declaration that Burkina Faso is no longer waiting for development to be handed down. It is rising by its own hands into a new era of self-determined greatness. Ibrahim Traoré's $1 trillion city marks Africa's boldest leap toward self-reliance, feat that defies every limitation once placed upon Burkina Faso by history, geopolitics, and global economic systems. For decades, Africa has been portrayed through a lens of dependency and foreign aid, Western infrastructure, and colonial systems that drained resources and left little room for sovereign development. But with this singular act, Traoré has redrawn the boundaries of what is possible, not just for his country, but for the entire continent. His vision is not built on borrowed ideals or imitation of foreign models. Instead, it's rooted in the idea that African nations can build, innovate, and rise without relying on the old powers that once dictated their pace and path. This trillion-dollar metropolis is not just concrete and steel, it's a statement. It's a direct answer to the centuries-old narrative that African nations must wait their turn or seek permission to develop. From its planning to its execution, every aspect of the city reflects a mindset shift to break away from donor dependency. From IMF constraints, from the slow conditional growth model imposed by global financial institutions. It is a living, breathing declaration that Africans are capable of designing their own future, powered by their own resources, shaped by their own needs, and fueled by their own ambition. Under Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso has emerged as a symbol of resistance and renewal. Traoré, a former soldier with the physique of a bodybuilder and the resolve of a revolutionary, has taken the nation far beyond the expectations of outsiders. In building this city, he has shown that political will, national pride, and strategic alliances can achieve what others thought impossible. The project wasn't born in Western boardrooms or through international summits. It was conceptualized on African soil by African minds, for African progress. The construction of the city did not rely on Western contractors or multinational corporations with hidden agendas. Instead, it leveraged regional partnerships, local engineers, in collaboration with non-Western allies who share Traoré's vision of a multipolar world one, where Africa is not a passive observer, but an active architect of global affairs. Funding reportedly came through a network of alternative alliances, including resource exchanges, sovereign wealth investments, and infrastructure for partnership deals that bypass traditional financial chokeholds. This model doesn't just build a city, it builds independence. The city itself is designed with future-proof systems, renewable energy grids, smart water management, AI-powered infrastructure, sustainable housing, and digital-first governance models. Schools emphasize African history, engineering, and critical thinking. Hospitals are equipped with modern technology, but staffed with locally trained professionals. The transportation system integrates electric mobility and high-speed rail, intended to connect not just districts, but nations. Every corner of this metropolis is meant to uplift its people, not to impress outsiders, but to serve citizens. This isn't just a leap for Burkina Faso. It's a provocation to every African leader still chained to the systems of foreign dependency. Traoré's city is a mirror held up to the continent, reflecting what can be achieved when leadership aligns with national interest rather than foreign dictates. It dares others to believe that progress doesn't have to come with strings attached. It challenges the old model where development was delayed in exchange for compliance. Here, development arrived first, fast, unapologetic, and unfiltered. The leap towards self-reliance wasn't only physical, it was psychological. For too long, Africa's youth have been told to seek opportunities abroad, to escape instead of rebuild. But Traoré's $1 trillion city turns that narrative upside down. Now, young Africans are witnessing a nation where innovation is homegrown. Opportunity is rising, and leadership dares to dream big. It signals a future where the brightest minds don't have to flee. They can thrive right where they are. For every Burkinabe child watching skyscrapers rise where dust once ruled, a new belief is born that greatness doesn't have to be imported. This bold act also sends a warning to those who profited from Africa's fragmentation, the cities. Success undermines the fear-driven myth that African nations need to be managed, policed, or stabilized by outsiders. It proves that with unity, strategy, and courage, an African nation can rise rapidly and on its own terms. This is why Traoré's city matters more than its dollar value. It's not just infrastructure, it's psychological infrastructure. It rebuilds dignity, restores control, and reclaims the right to self-determination. In this moment, Ibrahim Traoré has not just unveiled a city, he has launched a movement, physical and ideological construction site, where sovereignty is laid, brick by brick, policy by policy, vision by vision. The $1 trillion price tag is not a symbol of extravagance, but of belief that Africa deserves to invest in itself at the highest level possible. Not because it must prove anything to the world, but because its people deserve it. Traoré has bet everything on the idea that true independence starts with action. It's not paperwork. With infrastructure, not handshakes. With cities, not speeches. The world is watching, but more importantly, Africa is watching. And for the first time in a long time, it's not looking outward. It's looking within. The mega project was built in secret and revealed overnight to global shock. In an age of constant surveillance, satellite monitoring, and international media scrutiny, pulling off a $1 trillion infrastructure project without a whisper reaching global headlines seems almost impossible. Yet that's exactly what happened under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré. This was not a project that followed the traditional playbook of public announcements, press briefings, or donor-driven timelines. It was executed in silence, planned under strict confidentiality, and completed with military-level discipline. The sudden unveiling of a futuristic megacity in Burkina Faso has not only stunned world powers, but also upended everything the international community thought it understood about African capability and coordination. The secrecy surrounding this project was deliberate and strategic. Ibrahim Traoré, aware of the geopolitical threat surrounding ambitious African nations, chose discretion as a shield. He understood that announcing such a bold initiative too early would attract sabotage, pressure from foreign powers, and economic interference. Instead, Traoré orchestrated a quiet revolution. Land was secured without drawing attention. Resources were redirected discreetly. Engineers, planners, and workers operated under confidentiality agreements, with many reportedly unaware of the full scale of what they were building. Construction zones were guarded like military installations, with no drone footage, no satellite leaks, and no external press allowed near the development site by the time the world caught on. The city was already standing. Skyscrapers, road networks, green energy grids, smart surveillance systems, high-tech transit lines. It wasn't just a skeleton, it was a living city ready to operate. Overnight, images surfaced across media platforms showing an urban marvel. Where once there was barren land, Western media outlets scrambled for explanations. Intelligence agencies were caught off guard. Policy analysts struggled to understand how such a massive initiative could happen right under their noses, for a continent often underestimated and dismissed. This was the perfect strategic counterpunch. What shocked the world even more than the city's existence was its complexity. This wasn't a rushed or makeshift project. It reflected years of advanced planning, futuristic urban design, and global collaboration outside traditional Western partnerships. The layout followed sustainable principles: solar farms, AI-regulated traffic, automated public services, and smart housing systems with biometric entry and energy-efficient architecture. The education and medical facilities incorporated modern technologies paired with cultural relevance. In short, this city was built to last, not to impress. It was built to empower. Behind the scenes, Traoré had quietly assembled a coalition of engineers, planners, and partners from across Africa and beyond. Several nations from the global south reportedly contributed in exchange for future trade or technology exchange. This was just a Burkina achievement. It was a Pan-African operation wrapped in state secrecy. It was a masterclass in silent strategy, where results were prioritized over recognition. No flashy press releases, no donor dependency, just execution. Global powers that traditionally held influence over West Africa were left blindsided. How could such a massive movement happen outside their view? How did a nation once regarded as underdeveloped bypass all traditional roadblocks to deliver a project of such magnitude? The answer lies in a complete reversal of methods. While the West built with oversight, bureaucracy, and endless feasibility, studies Traoré's Burkina Faso built with speed, resolve, and autonomy. It didn't need approval, it needed results. And it got them. The secrecy served a larger purpose than just avoiding interference. It was also a psychological weapon. By keeping the project hidden until completion, Traoré not only protected it, but amplified its shock value. The world wasn't prepared to witness a billion-dollar blueprint. It was suddenly confronted with a trillion-dollar reality. This timing wasn't accidental light, it was tactical. By revealing the city fully formed, Traoré controlled the narrative. He didn't ask for commentary or permission. He presented the future as a fact. Domestically, this approach boosted national morale in unprecedented ways. Citizens, waking up to the news that their country had constructed an advanced metropolis in complete silence, responded with pride and disbelief. The element of surprise fostered unity and national identity. People saw for the first time what could be accomplished when leadership aligned with action, and when resources were used to build futures instead of serve foreign debt. For a population used to gradual change and broken promises, this immediate physical transformation was emotionally electrifying. The international community, meanwhile, was forced into a reactive position. Analysts tried to spin the development as an anomaly or question its legitimacy. But the images and videos spoke louder than their words. The narrative that African countries can't act independently, can't manage large-scale infrastructure, or can't operate without Western assistance was publicly shattered. The city became undeniable proof that leadership, vision, and secrecy, when combined with courage, can outpace any external expectation. Even neighboring African leaders were caught off guard. Many now look at Traoré's model as a new possibility one, where ambition doesn't need applause during execution, where secrecy doesn't mean weakness, but strategy. The results speak louder than promises. The shock of the city's emergence has triggered a wave of curiosity, admiration, and introspection across the continent.
Why haven't others done the same?
Why has so much time and money been spent asking for permission instead of building? Independence. Ibrahim Traoré didn't just build a city, he built a warning to those who thought they had Africa figured out. The secrecy was never about hiding, it was about timing. And when the time came, he didn't unveil a dream, he revealed a fully constructed future. This city represents a direct challenge to Western influence and colonial-era systems. For generations, Africa's development has been tethered to external control through colonial extraction. Post-independence interference and modern economic dependency masked as aid. Western influence has shaped everything from national borders to economic priorities, often leaving African nations with minimal agency over their futures. But what Ibrahim Traoré has built with this $1 trillion city is more than a physical space, it is a defiant symbol. It's a bold declaration that the age of foreign dictation is being dismantled brick by brick. This project was not designed to impress former colonial powers. It was crafted to reject their lingering grasp, to rewrite the blueprint of what African progress looks like, and to remind the world that sovereignty is not a suggestion, it is a right. Rooted in African values of community, shared growth, and environmental harmony. The infrastructure does not mimic Western cities. It redefines what a future African metropolis should be. Every design element, from energy systems to transportation, networks to cultural spaces, reflects a new ideological foundation, one that centers African identity rather than diluting it. The economic model behind the city is another layer of rebellion. Historically, Western influence operated through economic levers, debt traps, trade imbalances, and foreign aid packages loaded with conditions. Traoré's megacity was not financed by the World Bank or IMF. There are no structural adjustment programs attached, no currency manipulation tactics, no hidden interest clauses disguised as development loans. Instead, the project is backed by alternative partnerships alliances with non-Western nations, barter agreements, and direct investments that protect Burkina Faso's autonomy. This approach completely bypasses the traditional financial gatekeepers, who once dictated what African nations could build, when, and how. By refusing Western funding, Traoré has effectively severed the strings that so often come attached to money. There is no foreign boardroom overseeing this city's development, no colonial language being imposed through education policy, no foreign consultants shaping the social vision. The decisions are made in Burkina Faso by Burkinabe leaders. For Burkinabe citizens, that, in itself, is a revolutionary act. It turns the old colonial power dynamic upside down, one where African nations were forced to accept what was given, rather than create what they need. The symbolism of the city's rise cannot be ignored, in a region long exploited for its minerals, labor, and land. To build something of this magnitude independently is a historical rupture. It exposes the myth that progress can only come through permission or external validation. This project does not ask for approval, it asserts presence. It is a direct confrontation with the systems that once claimed dominion over the continent's resources and people. The bright skyline of this city doesn't just illuminate the ground, it casts a shadow over the legacy of colonialism and all who continue to profit from its remains. Western powers, both media and government, have struggled to respond to this development. For decades, the narrative has been carefully curated. Africa is poor, Africa is dependent, Africa needs help. But this city breaks every one of those assumptions. It wasn't built with handouts. It wasn't delayed by bureaucracy. It didn't require international oversight. It arrived without their blessing, and that terrifies them. Because if Burkina Faso can do this, what stops other African nations from doing the same? What stops the continent from rejecting the economic orders imposed on it and creating parallel systems based on mutual respect and sovereignty? Even the city's communication systems are structured to minimize Western control. Technology infrastructure prioritizes open-source platforms and regional data control, reducing reliance on Western tech monopolies. Media platforms within the city are domestically operated, and educational institutions emphasize African history, local languages, and decolonized knowledge systems. This city isn't just removing Western influence. Physically, it is scrubbing it out ideologically. It is creating a generation that won't grow up looking to Paris, London, or Washington for answers. They will look inward and to each other. In doing so, the city also sends a message to African elites who still cling to colonial-era power structures. Those who benefit from the status quos, travel on donor-funded trips, sign exploitative contracts, and send their children to foreign institutions are being called out not with words but with results. The city is a monument to what true independence looks like, not independence on paper, but independence in action. No more colonial currencies. No more foreign dictation of national priorities. No more development at the mercy of someone else's agenda. The presence of such a city within Burkina Faso shifts the balance of power on the continent. It becomes a model for those willing to break free and a threat to those invested in keeping things as they are. It reintroduces competition, not in terms of who can attract more foreign aid, but in who can reclaim more control. The challenge it poses is not just political or economic. It is existential. It dares to ask, what if Africa doesn't need the West anymore? What if the systems imposed by colonial rule are no longer relevant, no longer effective, and no longer accepted? City is the embodiment of that question in physical form. It exists because someone chose not to follow the old rules, because someone refused to let foreign influence define what development looks like. It is more than a city. It is a rejection of limits placed by history, a refusal to be managed, and a blueprint for a future built on African terms. If this story opened your eyes to a different Africa that builds, leads, and rises on its own terms, then don't just scroll past. Hit that subscribe button and join Mental Flight. Here, we don't follow the narrative, we challenge it. Stay ahead of the truth and be part of the movement that sees the world with sharper vision.